Guys, I'm really happy to welcome back to the podcast best-selling author Joel Rosenberg. Joel has written, 15 novels, 5 nonfiction books. Here is his latest, a nonfiction work. It's called Enemies and Allies. And this is a fascinating book. I just finished reading it. Joel, welcome back to the podcast. Great to have you, as always.
Thank you, Dinesh. Great thanks for reading the book.
Oh, I know. It was eye-opening because, well, what I love is that the book is based upon real on-the-record conversations that you had, and it's not with the aide to this guy who's an aide to that guy, or it's not unnamed sources. You are talking to the leaders of the major countries in the Middle East. You're getting their direct on-the-record comments, and you're drawing out of it a narrative. You actually mentioned to me that you see your book as a little bit of an it's the anti-Bob Woodward approach. So say what you mean by that.
Well, of course, Woodward's book isn't quite out as you and I are recording this, but and in many ways I have respect for Bob Woodward. But one of the challenges that Woodward has is that he interviews all these people, but you don't know where the information is coming from when he reports it. So if he says that General Milley said something horrible about Trump, did Milley tell him that? Did a third aide to some assistant to the assistant? You don't know where the information is coming from. So it becomes difficult to know, is it true? Is it accurate? And the image that Woodward seems to paint of President Trump is at odds with the image that I got from Netanyahu, from Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, from UAE Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed, from Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, from Jordan's King Abdullah, and others. In addition to sitting with Trump in the Oval Office, with talking to Pompeo and Pence on the record, my point is there's tremendous respect and admiration and appreciation among our America's most important Israeli and Arab allies for what Trump did. They didn't get into his personality. They looked at his policies and they looked at his results. And let's just rattle off a few, right? I mean, there was 5 million Muslims and Christians and Yazidis living under the reign of terror of the ISIS caliphate. Trump came in and decimated the caliphate when Obama let it grow and lead to genocide, right? It was Trump who took out Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS. It was Trump who took out the top Iranian terrorist, General Qasem Soleimani. It was Trump who ripped up the Iran nuclear deal and imposed a maximum pressure sanctions campaign on Iran because Iran is trying to get nuclear weapons. Look, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, there's numerous books written about him. None of those reporters have ever met him, much less got him on the record. I did. And I spent hours with him, and he told me on the record that the supreme leader of Iran is, quote, the new Hitler, unquote. Now, I'm just giving you a few examples but what's fascinating is our most trusted allies in the Middle East deeply appreciated President Trump and his team. And I didn't even mention yet the biggest accomplishment, which was 4 Arab-Israeli peace and normalization agreements known as the Abraham Accords and some other related agreements that nobody in this city, Washington, where I'm speaking to you from, thought Trump was capable of. I quote Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden and others on the record, John Kerry, is saying Trump's going to make the situation worse in the Middle East. In fact, he made it much better. So this is all apparently at odds with the book that Woodward has put out there. And my book is not just some guy watching from the sidelines. I'm in the room like he was, except I'm telling you exactly who my sources are.
Yeah, I mean, I remember John Kerry saying something to the effect of, he goes, well, this idea that you can get Arab countries to cut side deals with Israel is preposterous. No such deal can occur without the involvement and concurrence of the Palestinians, without resolving the Palestinian issue. We haven't resolved the Palestinian issue, but you've got all these agreements in place. So, I mean, it is funny how all these establishment figures who deliver with Solomonic authority these proclamations that turn out to be not only untrue but absurd. And I think what Trump did is he made them look stupid.
Well, it's true, Dinesh, and I describe this group of elites and establishment figures that you talk about as the peace industry. They have made a lot of their reputation and a lot of money over many, many decades talking about how to make peace in the Middle East, except they never do it. Right. Some of them, Yasser Arafat famously won a Nobel Peace Prize. He didn't make peace. So it's a little odd. President Obama won a Nobel Peace Prize, but where's the peace? President Trump probably will not win a Nobel Peace Prize, even though he should. And I say this, Dinesh, as someone who was a never Trumper in 2016, okay? I'm not coming in there as a guy who was, quote, drinking the Kool-Aid or a sycophant or any of the attacks that are made. I'm telling you, I was a brutal critic of the president when he wasn't the president, when he was just a candidate. But when I sit with him in the Oval Office and I describe it in Enemies and Allies, I tell him, look, we still have some disagreements on some things, but you have shocked me by keeping promises I never thought you were serious about, and by accomplishing things in the Middle East I never thought you could do. And I think one of the problems of the never Trumper world is they're not willing to say, listen, the man got a lot of stuff done. Like, it was messy, right? You don't want to see the sausage get made. I don't want to see sausage get made, but I like sausage. I mean, it's a messy. Trump had a messy presidency. It was a messy process, but he listened to his generals. He didn't surrender to the Taliban. Okay. Yes, he wanted to draw down U.S. forces, but he listened to his generals. He listened to Pence. He listened to Pompeo, who told him, you got to do this in a very measured way, because if you pull out the wrong Jenga stick, the whole thing collapses. Trump listened. Biden did not. So for all the critics of Trump who say, oh, he was going to make things worse in the Middle East. Well, first of all, he didn't. And second of all, Biden did. And I think it's important to just look at results and say, who was making America safer? Who was putting the fear of God in our enemies? And who was emboldening our allies instead of the opposite? And I got to tell you, Biden, with his 50 years of experience, has made the situation worse. And Trump, with no experience, which worried me at the beginning, made the situation better. And I'm one of the few that I think has been honest about saying, listen, I still have some criticism of Trump. I didn't like every tweet. I didn't like paying off a porn star. I'm sorry. I'm going to be honest about that. But when it comes to his impact on the world, and particularly on the area of the world that I'm focused on, where I live in Jerusalem, he made the situation a whole lot better, and he deserves credit for it. And the leaders of the Middle East give him credit for it. In fact, they were deeply appreciative of him. And I think that's a story, unfortunately, Bob Woodward is not telling.
Yeah, Joel, when we come back, I want to talk about how there's been a great shift in the grand narrative of the Middle East. It used to be one way, it's now a completely different way. We'll be right back.